What's up, everybody? What's up? How's it going? How's it going? It's Tuesday night. Hope everybody had a good day. I had a pretty good day. I say it every night, but really, I wake up and the NFT space is probably the fastest life you could possibly live. I don't know if there's another way to spend 10 years in one day. I don't even know how to explain it. You guys know. It is absolutely the fastest thing I've ever seen in my life. And there's so much going on all the time. I think it's fascinating when, for those of you who either are joining an NFT project or are launching an NFT project, I think I find it very fascinating because once you flip to the other side of things, you were like, all of a sudden it's like, holy crap. It's very different on the other side of the tracks. I mean, the things that people talk about behind closed doors, the contracts you get, which we're going to talk about tonight, the things you see and the people you talk to, some of those most amazing people doing the most amazing things. I have had more conversations with phenomenal entrepreneurs in the last week, 2 weeks, than I could have ever possibly hoped to. I love it. I absolutely love it. And there's so much going on and there's so much coming up. With that said, and before we jump into everything, you know what? Before we do that, we'll just say who's here. What's up, Willy D? Happy Tuesday. Welcome. Hey, Dusty, how you doing? Dusty, did I summarize that right? Yeah, let's see those emojis. Maybe. I think you might have. That's a pretty good TLDR, man. I think that's pretty good. Willy D says, this seems bad. Or fun. Huh? See what I did there? Huh? Yeah, we're going to talk about it. It's interesting. It's all a matter of perspective. So one of the things that is challenging for a show like this is that I am not a YouTuber, right? It's neither good nor bad. It's just the way it is. Like, I'm not a YouTuber. So I'm a project owner and I'm a founder. And so while I certainly understand the value of YouTube and doing a live show, even on a nightly basis, there are things that I choose not to do or participate in. For instance, it'd be very easy for me to grow the channel and attract more people by doing what other YouTubers do, like 15 hot NFT projects today, or like how to stay away from this shitty project. Like, I can't do that, right? Like, I'm not going to just shill projects unless they directly support and add value to the adult fantasy community, right? Like, it doesn't benefit anybody for me to just shill shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not paid to do it. I don't mind talking about some of the projects I'm in, but that's not my job and that's not how I attract people. Likewise, I also don't see it as my position to crap on other projects. The least of which is because I am a project. We are a project. Like, it's like such bad karma, in my humble opinion, to piss on other projects, because sooner or later you're going to be on the other side. You know what I mean? Like, every single project is going to get crapped on at some point. Like, it's going to happen. So why speed that up by like crapping on somebody else's dream? You know what I mean? Sure, if it's a rug and there's like proof that it's a rug and it's in the news that it's a rug, then it's fair game to talk about. But 10 hot ways to get on whitelists is like not really my thing. With that said, one of the opportunities that we have, and something that we can do on this channel that really nobody else can do, or very, very few, is actually show you the behind the scenes of what it's like to run a growing, scaling project. And tonight's one of those nights where I get to show you something behind the scenes. My kids are sitting next to me. Let me move that chair out of the way. But tonight is one of those nights where I get to share something behind the scenes that I don't think any other channel can really get. Very, very few are going to get something like this. And that's because as a project, you go after deals and deals come to you and you go through negotiations. And some of those negotiations land in partnerships, and partnerships are fantastic, right? And some are not. Some don't work out. So tonight, what we're going to look at is a contract. And it's a contract that I received because my job as a project owner for Adult Fantasy, and you guys have heard me say this before, is to bring as much fucking value as I possibly can. And there's a ton of shit coming, right? Like there's Katie bar the door. It's like there's a lot of stuff coming. But I'm always looking to partner. I'm always looking to see what we can do at a very high level to bring attention to the project and to partner with other really top tier projects that can expand the brand or move licensing into a new direction, right? Push our work into new hands and in front of new eyeballs. So with that said, I received a contract. Let me put this in context. There are a number of projects out there that are going after licensing and partnering with owners of what are currently top blue chip NFTs, right? So we're talking about CloneX, we're talking about Azuki, we're talking about Doodles, we're talking about Bored Ape, and Cool Cats. There's several more, and owners of those NFTs, many of them have been given commercial licensing rights. They've been given ownership over the IP. In fact, that was one of the selling points. Hey, you own this thing. You own this. Like, go do what you want to do. Go launch your own brand. Do your thing. Which is great. And you've heard me talk about the positive of that is that if you know what you're doing, if you've built a brand before, or if you understand marketing and design and community building and startup life and how to bring a product to market, that's a fucking awesome opportunity if it's a popular project or if there's a really good built-in reason why it's going to work, right? Adult Fantasy is a perfect example of that, right? We're going after Marvel. Adult Fantasy is a decentralized character franchise universe where the fans get to create and run the next Marvel. And the reason it's a good draw is because, at least in my background, having worked there, I know exactly what works and I know what doesn't. And I did it for them. They hired me to do what I am now doing for everybody else, right? Like, I've been there, done that. So there are a lot of good opportunities out there. The contracts, though, that are coming out is something that we need to talk about. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to look at one of the contracts I received, and we're going to dissect it pretty much line by line. We're going to talk about it. Before we jump in 100%, there's a caveat that I want to make, and that is that this agreement is not. This video is not an attack on the company or the agreement. Okay, I want to make that really clear. The company is legit. I don't have any doubt about it. I'm not going to dox them. I'm not going to talk about who they are. With that said, I'm also going to say that I'm a supporter of their business, right? I believe in their product and what they're putting out. I do think that this agreement has its place. I think if you are somebody who owns one of the NFTs that they're interested in, and you have zero interest or idea of what to do with anything, this may be an option for you. Okay, so I want to make that very clear. I am not crapping on the company or the agreement. What I am going to say is that it is my disappointment in the contract comes from the fact that it is exactly what I would expect a old-fashioned or regular or Web 2.0, whatever you want to call it. It is exactly what I would expect from an agreement, and it doesn't think about the potential partnership with the owner. Okay, even though it's a partnership agreement, you'll see what I mean as we go through it. There are some things in here that we need to discuss as a community, and most importantly, my reason for sharing this is that I personally want to know what you think. So this is a really important video. I really want to know what you guys think about this, because especially as adult fantasy moves forward and Clever Era moves forward, we're probably going to be doing some kind of like agreement as well. There are some really good ones out there. Again, I don't want to dox anyone because I don't want to suggest who this is by saying who it's not. But there are some really good agreements that are out there for partnering, for licensing. So I don't want to color the entire industry. It's just that this specific agreement I was very shocked by, and I was really surprised at the approach that these guys were taking. Okay, so with that said, we're going to jump in. You guys ready? Hit me up, chat, if you guys are ready. All right, sounds good. I know there's a delay. All right, let's jump in. So here we go. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to go through this section by section. It's not that long. It's actually pretty short. One thing you should know is the stuff that I cut out is all the normal stuff. So before the word agreement, it talks about like, this company is this thing, and this is your name is here, and you're called the owner, and then it goes through the process. So the stuff that I took out is all the normal stuff that is pretty much seen in every contract. And I've seen hundreds. I have read and signed hundreds and hundreds of contracts in my 26 plus years. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one, but I do know how to read a contract. Okay. I grew up in a law firm. My grandfather was a lawyer. I almost became one. If I hadn't been an artist, I probably would have gone into law. So again, not a lawyer, not an attorney. I don't represent myself in court. You know what I'm saying? But I do know how to read English. And so we're going to talk about this. And so I really want to know what you guys think. All right. So here we go. Guys, of course, I cough right in the middle of that. All right. Agreement. Number 1, license. Owner hereby grants the company the exclusive, irrevocable, sub-licensable, and transferable license during the term throughout the world to use, exhibit, publish, animate, market, and broadcast the NFT assets and names and likenesses for use in content such as films, theater, plays, streaming, television series, books, play to earn, and video games to be published in any existing or later developed medium, products such as toys and merchandising, collectibles, and brand sponsorships, licensing deals. As part of this agreement, the company may, in its sole discretion, develop the character, biography, voice, mannerisms, and personality of each NFT asset. The company is not obligated to use any particular NFT asset. The company may assign or sublicense its rights under this agreement to any other person subject to the terms and conditions of this license. So right out of the gate, there's some things I really like, and there's some things I really don't like. The things that I like is that it actually covers, it's actually very difficult when you're creating a contract to cover most of the use cases. And I think they did a really good job. They're like, hey, we're going to have the license to use the exhibit it, publish it, animate it, market it, broadcast it, which is pretty much everything throughout the world. So everywhere for use in, and the content that they choose, films, theater, plays, streaming, like they cover everything. So this is a very experienced entertainment lawyer, in my humble opinion, right? Or someone that knows entertainment very well. Like they covered it very, very well. They didn't really leave out anything that I could see. I mean, they cover streaming too, I'm sure, right? Yeah, streaming. So they really cover most of the situations. But in there lies the first problem. Okay, so first sentence, you the owner of this NFT. So I have an NFT that they're interested in, right? And I'll tell you right now, it's a 344. So you guys should go get them on OpenSea because people are interested in 344, man. 344 is my base ape, and we've created a character out of them. So people are interested in them. But here's the problem. The owner hereby grants the company exclusive, irrevocable, sublicensable, and transferable license. Meaning, not only it's exclusive, it's not non-exclusive, meaning they get to own it. You can't give this to anybody else. If somebody else wanted to license 344 from me or from us, forget it. Not going to happen. If you guys wanted to license, if Disney came tomorrow and said, hey, we want to license 344, we would not be able to do this because these guys would have the exclusive right to that character. So that is already a red flag. It's also irrevocable, which means we can't stop it. It's also sublicensable, which means they can sublicense it to somebody else. And transferable. They can transfer the license to somebody else. And they can sublicense or resell the license to a third party. But you as the owner cannot do that. You understand? We are granting them exclusive rights to do all of this stuff, but by granting them the right, we are limiting and eliminating what we can do, okay? That would be different if this was non-exclusive. Non-exclusive means they could do all of this stuff, but you still have, as the owner, you still have the ability to do whatever it is you need to do. You could license it to somebody else, okay? So exclusivity is a big effing deal. And the fact that they can do all of this stuff and you can't is already a red flag. So let's continue to B. Owner is the owner. So that would be me. I'm the owner. They're the company. Owner is the owner and has the full right to use the NFT assets, except as to the rights granted to the company in this agreement. However, owner shall not act or do anything that might tend to bring the NFT assets or the company into disrepute, contempt, scandal, or ridicule. Owner will notify the company in writing prior to owner's commercialization of the NFT assets. Okay. Can you guys see like some of the problems in this one as well? Can you guys tell some of the problems that this one might have? So here's the deal. The problem that this piece has is, first, it says the owner is the owner, thank you, and has the full right to use the NFT assets. Great. Except as to the rights granted to the company in this agreement. Well, we just went through in paragraph A what those rights are, and it pretty much covers everything. It covers everything, right? So I can do whatever I want. Adult fantasy, hey guys, we can get together and we can do whatever we want, except what's covered in paragraph 1, in paragraph A. Like 99% of everything you guys would want to do. Does it make sense? Like pretty bad. So that's like pretty awful, in my humble opinion. Now, owner shall not act or do anything that might tend to bring NFT assets or the company into disrepute. I kind of get. Like, I mean, this is a FUD system. You know what I mean? I totally understand why we would want to like have that in there. And in fact, in my contracts, I have something similar. So I totally get that. Owner will notify the company in writing prior to owner's commercialization of the NFT assets. We're just getting started, guys. We're just getting started with this thing. And already they're exclusive on everything. They're taking everything. And if we as a group decide to commercialize something, no matter what it is, because it's not specific, if we want to do an RPG, because I don't see an RPG listed in section A, right? Or let's say a comic book. They mention books, but they don't mention comics, although books kind of covers it in my humble opinion. If we found something to do, we still would not be able to do it without writing them and letting them know that we're going to do this. So you start to see where the control is starting to head, right? Does this make sense so far? A little crazy, right? So let's check it out. Consideration. So we're moving into 3. This, by the way, was like by the time I had read this, I was already red flagged out. I was like, there's no way I'm signing. I can't sign this agreement. As much as I'd love to work with this company and I think they have a really great thing, I can't do it. Right? It's not worth it. It's absolutely. I don't see why anyone who has the ability to build something would do this. My humble opinion. All right, so we're moving on. Consideration. In consideration for the license set forth in this agreement, the company shall pay to the owner. 1. The rate per episode of any streaming television series per NFT asset used in that streaming television series when that episode initially becomes viewable to the public, and 50% of the net proceeds the company receives from any other use of the NFT assets. For example, if a doll in the image of the NFT asset is sold, owner will receive 50% of the net proceeds the company receives from the sales of those dolls. If a video game uses an NFT asset, the owner will receive 50% of the net proceeds the company receives for the video game sales or licenses. Net proceeds, now here's where they're going to get they have to define net proceeds. Net proceeds are used in this agreement means all gross revenues received by the company from the use of the NFT asset, less taxes withheld. And I'm just going to basically tell you, it's all the operational costs, right? They have to get out taxes, proceeds, paying people, all that kind of crap. So that makes sense. The rate, so I'm right here, right? The rate as used in this section is the industry standard rate per episode that would be paid to a voice actor in an animated series for exhibition on a broadcast network or a streaming platform, and the rate will depend on whether an NFT asset is the star, co-star, or guest character in a series. For purposes of this paragraph, a series is a set of episodes. Again, they have to define this stuff. A set of episodes developed and streaming or broadcasting and does not include prequels, sequels, remakes, or derivatives of the series. However, the license rights granted to the company under this agreement include the rights set out in Section 1 above, which respect to prequels, sequels, remakes. Basically, they're saying you'll get paid also for prequels, sequels, remakes, and all this other stuff. No compensation would be due to owner for usage of any clip of an episode for which owner previously was paid. So the very first thing, you're like, holy crap, that's really cool. They're going to give me 50% net, right? 50% net. Well, a couple of things there. The first, that's 50% net does not include, for example, the money that has to go to other owners of non-fungible token assets included in the project and to contractors hired for the project. Okay, so they're from that gross, they're going to be paying out pretty much everybody and everything. Usually the way this works, and I don't think this is worded well, but usually my understanding is the way this works is you're basically paying your overhead first, right? Gross includes your contractors, your overhead, your computers, your taxes, whatever it is. You're paying the bills first. And then what's left over is divided up, right? What's left over is 50%, right? So if you had 100% and 50% of that 100% was used to pay your bills, there's 50% left over. Well, 50% of that is then used to divide up between everybody who was actually in the show, okay? And that gives the company another 25% profit margin and gives 25% or 50% of 50% to the team, to the licensors or the licensees, I guess, whatever. So the issue is that they state 50% is a great number, but they state the rate, and the rate as used in this section is the industry standard rate per episode that would be paid to a voice actor in an animated series. So I understand that it's hard to figure out how you're going to pay people, what they're going to be, because you're licensing their thing. And so our ape, our character 344 that we are making together, that we are going to be building together, let's say it gets used in this show, right? That character, which they get to determine how it walks, how it talks, the whole thing. That was the other thing that was in that first part. They get to determine everything about that character. We don't really have a say. So they could say, nope, we don't want to use 344 in this way. We want to make him, like a character off of Seinfeld or whatever. Completely different, completely random and completely different. Not at all what we're using the character for in our universe. There's zero consideration for that. They control everything. On top of that, when the character is in the show, if it makes it to the show, the rate that they're using is not like a lead actor, right? It's also not a traditional licensing agreement. They're giving you the rate of a paid voice actor for an animated show. And I'm here to tell you that a paid voice actor for an animated series, that rate is really fucking low. Sorry to cuss, but that it's not easy. That voice acting is not like, there are a few voice actors that are rich and famous, but they're not talking about that rate. They're talking about industry standard rate, which is very, very low. So you're going to be getting a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. It's very small. And I'm very surprised that they would take exclusivity away from you or claim exclusivity, and then in return pay you 50% of the proceeds based on a low paying rate. I think that's pretty awful. What do you guys think? Willy D says very Web 2.0. Yeah, it really is. It really is surprising, right? We're not even halfway through it yet. Carrots, hey, what's up, Carrots? Welcome back. Glad to see you. I'm glad you're back from your wonderful trip. J. Ross says, dang, I must have missed a bunch already. I had the link up and it just showed and I was waiting for this to start. I was in there since 7:15. That's funny. Dude, well, my bad. Hey, there's going to be a replay. Don't worry about it. You're not missing anything. So, as we've stated, so I'll recap just super briefly for Carrots and for J-Raw here. The agreement, they basically get exclusive, irrevocable, sublicensable, and transferable licensing from our character, from 344, right? From Bored Ape. And then they also get to control the character, biography, voice, mannerisms, and personality. So there's no input from us at all. They get to use it for all of these things, which is pretty much like every single thing you would want. And we have the right to do whatever we want with our NFT. Thank you, because we own it. Except everything that was stated up in here, which in this section up here, which is pretty much anything you'd ever want to do. Also, if you do decide to do something that's not in the above thing, you're going to have to tell us in writing prior to actually commercializing it. So that's how they started this contract. And then for consideration, you're going to get 50% of the net divided up between the people who are going to be in the show. But that 50% net rate is based on voice actors, which is not, it ain't Tom Cruise. You know what I'm saying? Carrot says, which project has this term? So I'm not going to disclose that. This was, I've been talking, we've been setting stuff up behind the scenes. Obviously we're looking at licensing deals and things like that. As I mentioned before, this is not to crap on the company, and it's not even to crap on the contract. Because as I mentioned earlier, I do think there is a place for this contract, and that is if you are you have a really top tier character, or what people think of as blue chip, right? The Azukis, the Bored Apes, the Cool Cat, whatever, the Doodles, what have you. And you own one and you have no idea what to do with it, and you don't even care, right? It's even then this is a dangerous contract, but I'm not crapping on the company. In fact, I'm a really big supporter of what they're doing, so I'm not going to dox them. This is purely for analyzing, and most importantly, as I mentioned, I really want to know your thoughts, because as we move forward as a group, we're certainly going to do some kind of agreement so that you guys can be protected, and I want to make sure that you guys get the rewards you deserve for helping us build this big universe. And there are some really good contracts out there. There's some really good non-exclusive licenses that are out there that really I think are groundbreaking in the way that they support community. Again, I don't want to, for this conversation, I don't want to talk about those either, because I don't want to accidentally dox these guys by saying who it isn't, right? So I want to just be very respectful and careful, because again, it's not necessarily a bad contract. It's just that I think it misses a huge opportunity to work with groups like ours, where we're actually building lore and building an audience around characters that they could utilize, right? Because there's no one with an audience surrounding a character that's ever going to touch this contract. And if they do, they're going to get ripped off. Dusty says, yeah, it's pretty bad. The standard rate for voice actor per episode, and you only receive 50% for other uses that aren't episodes. Right, completely. It's really, really tough. So let's see what else they have in store for us. Content ownership. The company shall be the sole and exclusive owner of all work, material, content, and programs created by the company using the NFT assets, including all copyrights and rights of literary property recognized or created by law therein. This includes the internal materials created by the company with respect to an NFT asset and all content created in which an NFT asset is used. The company may, in its sole discretion, sell, promote, transfer, or license any work, material, content, or program created or commissioned by it, and the company's only resulting obligation to owner is the compensation set forth in Section 3 above. However, the company and owner jointly shall own the rights, including any copyrights or patents or renewals, to products that are a physical representation or part or all of the NFT asset alone, such as dolls or collectibles. So I don't totally have a problem with this one. This section is actually like understandable. It's like, okay, they're going to be making original work. They're licensing this property off of us or somebody. They're going to have new things that are able to be copyrighted and that are assets and that have actual value from a legal standpoint. So they need the right to sell, promote, transfer, or license any of their stuff as well, right? Now, the assumption is that if they're licensing something that has your property in it, that you're going to get a cut of that. There's going to be a kickback. Right? And that's why they mentioned, however, the company and owner jointly shall own the rights, including any copyrights or patents or renewals to products that are physical representation or part of the NFT asset alone, right? Like alone, blah, 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 blah. The only problem with this, and I don't know why they would include it. I mean, I understand why they include it, but it's not making the signer aware, is that at least with patents. So they say, hey, we're going to jointly own the rights, including any copyrights or patents or renewals. Individuals do not own patents. Companies own patents, like period. It's just the way it is. Like individuals do not own patents. So unless you are a sole proprietorship or you are incorporated, if they decide to patent something, they're probably not going to include you in it, right? Or you're going to have to sign over your rights to them. Okay, that's not negative. It's just how it works legally. So I'm a little surprised that they included it, but I'm surprised that they included it as a joint ownership, because that's not the way it actually works. Legally, that's not the way it works. So that's a surprise, but I also understand why they put it in there. So this is probably one of the few sections that I actually think is okay. So let's see what you guys are saying. Let's see. J-Rod, do you read through all contracts or does someone else look into them for you? I read all contracts. I read all of them. So I grew up in a law firm with my grandfather. He wanted me to take over the family practice, but I was so into art, it was never going to happen. Also, just by being, an independent contractor and then owning a business and doing it for 26 years. As I said before, like, I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV. I'm never going to represent myself in court, but I've read and signed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of contracts, and I've made or had made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of contracts. So I know how to read a contract because I've made a ton of them and I've read a ton of them and I've signed a ton of them. I've just been surrounded by it since I was like 13 years old. So again, does that mean I could be wrong in interpreting some of this stuff? Absolutely. But the amount of red flags some of these things show is just like, it's interesting. Legal documents show the perspective of the company, right? Most startups, most companies don't look at this stuff at all. And this is why when I read this, there's a choice. It's either the founders didn't read this and just accepted it from the attorneys, or they the attorneys convince them to be so protective that they're missing out on possible opportunity. There's a lot of people that are going to sign this document without reading it as well. So they're going to get a lot of, like, I have no doubt this company is going to get a lot of licenses, and they'll do just fine. Again, I actually support the company, but I do think reading a contract really can show you the mindset of the company in its presentation to you. Is it aggressive, or is it actually supportive of the relationship, right? And I find this actually to be very aggressive. I find it to be like traditional entertainment lawyer, Hollywood. It's very standard, and it puts you in your place, right? For me, you as the owners of a property who would be looking at this to sign, we are clearly on the bottom tier, and they are clearly putting themselves above you, okay? And I don't think that's a good position, especially in Web3, okay? It's a very old school way to think about it. Let's see what you guys think here. Carrot says, I don't feel educated enough on the intricacies of licensing and copyright law, but I just want to see those who put effort into creative endeavors are fairly compensated. 100%. I mean, honestly, yeah, you don't have to be know the intricacies of licensing and copyright to read a contract. And when it says like, hey, you're giving us exclusive rights to do whatever we want, and you can't do anything. Like, that's pretty basic, and it's pretty obvious. And I don't, again, if you're somebody that doesn't want to do anything and you don't have any ideas or clue or direction, and that's not a bad thing. There's a lot of people that just buy and hold, and they're just like in it for the financial gain. This is probably a great contract, right? Because there is a way to see this as free money, right? But not if you're actively building in the space to create something of value for the property that you hope to share through licensing with others. And that's what's so shocking to me is I'm like, we're all out here building communities and talking and growing. And this is specifically targeted to people who have zero audience, because I don't know anyone that would have an audience or have a community that would want to have any part of this. And it also made me think, and we'll get back to this too. It also made me think that the influencers that signed up, because there were a lot of really well-known influencers in the space that were announced as being partners, they didn't get this contract. That's hearsay. I understand. It's my opinion. They did not get this contract, or they got a rider to this contract that said, you will be in the show, right? These, for me and for most people, this is like, hey, if we choose you, you're going to give us everything. For the influencers that partnered with them, they did not get the same contract, because there's no way an influencer with a big audience that's based around their identity, their PFP identity, is going to be given up under these terms. And if they did do that, then they're not that as smart of an influencer as one might think, in my opinion. Kara says, on the flip side, having done some work with DAOs, I see many folks who don't want to contribute who also expect really large returns for treasuries. It's complicated. Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like, again, if you're not doing anything and you're just holding it, and you just have like, an Azuki or a Bored Ape or whatever sitting in your wallet, and it's just going to sit there for several years, this might be something that would attract you. But from my perspective, from a project owner, this is incredibly dangerous. And I fear other project owners getting excited by the FOMO and the hype of licensing their shit out without having the experience to read a contract and actually understand it. And for any project owner who's been putting blood, sweat, and tears, maybe they've made comics of their, let's say, Bored Ape. Maybe they've made t-shirts. Maybe they've made animation. Maybe they're really working on music that ties that. All of that stuff is gone the minute they sign this contract. It all goes out the window. So it's really dangerous, in my opinion. J-Ross says, I got a question I've been wondering. If I were to want to talk about a project and show their art in the magazine, would I need permission from those teams, or is that fair use for magazine content? That's a great question. That is something we can address. We'll address that in Discord. That's a good question. I'll try to remember that, because that is a good question. Dusty says, I imagine for someone who bought blue chips to sit on them for 5 years while they're doing other things, this might work. Exactly. But even then, there's a problem, and we're gonna get to it. So this is all about, we're doing all the work. You're gonna give us the rights. You can do anything you want as long as it has nothing to do with anything in the realm of all the cool shit that we're doing, which is pretty much everything. Okay, so that's pretty much where we are with this. Let's see what else they say. Termination. Either party may terminate this agreement upon written notice following the material breach of this agreement by the other party. At the expiration of this agreement or upon termination as set forth in this section or in section 2, the company may continue to use the NFT assets in content or materials that were created prior to the end date, subject to continued payment of the amounts under section 3, except as stated below. Company will have no right to undertake any new use or grant any new sub-license of any NFT assets as of the end date, but all other applicable terms of this agreement shall survive the end date. Upon the company's written request and the company's expense, at the company's expense, owner shall return any materials it received from the company related to the NFT assets. So if you decide to end the agreement, again, this is one of those things, on its surface, this is not a bad clause. But there are problems with it, in that legal documents are very specific. It's one of the reasons why I kind of like reading them, or at least I know how to read them, is because I'm a very data-driven person I try to be very specific in my language and the things that I create. I'm very some would call me anal, right? I'm pretty anal with my shit. So it's since contracts are specific, you need to learn to read in between the lines and see what's not said, or what is suggested but what is not explicitly explained. So start with the last sentence. Upon the company's written request and at the company's expense, owner shall return any materials it received from the company related to the NFT assets. That's a little weird, considering that you're not a contractor. You're licensing your thing to them. Like, again, they're up here in this contract and you are like way down here. It's like you're working for them. It's weird. It's a modified contractor agreement. It's very weird. In a contractor agreement, that's very normal. Hey, at the end of this, anything that we sent you, if we ask you to return all the materials, you need to return all the materials. That's been in every contractor agreement I've ever signed as a freelancer and as a contractor and as a animation studio. Like that is very standard. I've never, ever had anybody ask me to return materials. Never happens, to my knowledge, and I've never heard of it happening. But everyone puts it in there just as like, okay, we may need to call something back in case you have something that's private or personal. So it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense in this context, because what are you going to send me that I need to send you back, since I'm the one licensing my asset to you, right? We're the group that's providing you with this thing so that you can make money. Why are you going to force us to return anything, right? But again, it is fairly common, so it's it's kind of like a guys, okay, not really thought. Again, the very Web 2.0, very, very standard contractor agreement language. But here's the deal. Here's what I saw, and this is me raising red flags, or question marks, maybe not a red flag. So this is about termination. So hey, we're gonna end our relationship. We're not gonna work together anymore. Now, they say the company may continue to use the NFT assets and content or materials that were created prior to the end date, subject to continued payment. Now, this makes total sense. If they're in the middle of a licensing deal, or your shoes are getting produced by a deal with Puma or something, and you kill it, and they decide, no, we're not working together anymore. Well, that thing is already in production. So they need to guarantee they have the right to finish production and sell the thing. Okay, so that makes complete sense. You can't just stop the presses, right? I totally get that. That is 100% understandable. And company will have no right to undertake any new use or grant any new sublicense of any NFT assets as of the end date. That also makes sense. Like, hey, we're terminating this. So the company, we're not going to have we agree that we do not have the right to take your Azuki character and get a new deal without you because we've terminated that relationship. That's 100% above board, makes total sense. But they say, where is it? But all other agreements shall survive the end date, written request at expense. Where was it? Where is it? Where was it? The thing that I was kind of throwing out. Okay, so this is but all other applicable terms of this agreement shall survive the end date. The very next sentence. So they say company will have no right to undertake any new use or grant any new sublicense. So they can't do any new business, right? But all other applicable terms of this agreement shall survive the end date. So that's a really strange sentence to put in there. And I know it's done to protect them because there's always external circumstances that they can't foresee. And that on that side of the fence, it's understandable. However, there's another interpretation of the sentence, which is, what if we have a 5-year, what if the company has a 5-year deal in place with Adidas? Okay. You and them are working together. They sign a 5-year deal with Adidas to use your Azuki NFT. Okay. So year 1, they're making the shoes. You decide to terminate it. You're done. I'm out. I'm peace out. I'm out. I'm over it. This sentence right here, as small as it is, means that they could continue within the context of whatever agreement they've made with another company without you. Okay. So what that means is that, hey, Adidas is making my shoes, but you know what? Screw Adidas. I hate Adidas. This is not what I agreed to. I want to terminate this relationship. They say, okay, we're going to terminate the relationship. But the contract with Adidas is for 5 years and includes t-shirts and backpacks and billboards and whatever else. Okay. So that means you are now no longer in the situation, but that contract continues. They can make whatever the hell they want without you with that other company based on the deal they have with that company. Meaning, again, the show must go on, the train doesn't stop. You don't really have full control over your piece, over what you own, right? It's very, very interesting. And the thing that came up to me in this, and I'll say it again when we come up to some of the stronger, like this isn't even the strongest piece. I teased that in the thumbnail, but like what I couldn't get out of my head with this contract is that this isn't what they're doing in this contract, in my humble opinion, as an owner of a NFT that they are interested in, and as a project owner who happens to have a project with you guys about building community-based products, right? Like they're downgrading the relationship of owner. They call you an owner in the contract, but their language in the contract makes them the owner and you a custodian. You're the custodian of the NFT, but you can't do fuck all. You can't do anything without telling them or letting them know or having them like make a decision. Okay. It's really crazy stuff. Representations by owner. Owner hereby represents at the start date, has full right and title to the NFT assets throughout the world. It has not granted any rights regarding the NFT assets to any other person, and the information about the NFT assets set forth on Schedule A is true and correct. Again, they're restating right here, not granted any rights regarding the NFT assets to any other person. This is exclusive. You cannot, will not, shall not allow any other company to touch this thing. It's really screwy. Okay, here we're about to get into some crazy stuff. Let's see. Carrot says, "Eek, that part is terrible. Maybe it's standard in contracts, just not my area of expertise." Which part is that, Carrot? Sorry, I just looked over this. Which part do you think is standard? I'm curious. Carrot says, "Lawyers are going to love this stuff in the future." Yeah, it's really important. Hey, Hype TV, what's up? Hi, great stream. Thank you so much. Yeah, Hype TV. Go check them out. It's hype.tv. Pretty sure that's the URL. Fantastic NFT project. I will shill good projects, especially when they're friends. And Hype TV is awesome. Go check them out. Dusty says, hi, Hype. Yeah, Hype TV is awesome. Yeah, they're awesome. Enough said about that. They're awesome. So, yeah, so representations, not granted any rights regarding the NFT assets to any other person. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So yes, we understand it's exclusive. You don't want us to do anything with the thing that we actually own and work so hard to keep. And now we're working hard to promote. You just want to do everything. Cool. So we've got 2 more sections here, and these are pretty brutal in my opinion. NFT Assets Transfer. Hey guys, let's talk about sales, right? Let's talk about what happens when you actually want to, like, you know, sell your NFT or transfer it or give it to somebody. Owner will notify the company if it receives an offer to purchase an NFT asset. Within 24 hours after the company's notice of the offer, the company may purchase the NFT asset from the owner for at least 1 cent more than the amount offered. If the company doesn't exercise this right, then within 48 hours after the 24-hour period, owner may sell the NFT asset to the offerer at the price it initially offered. Notwithstanding the foregoing, owner may put up an NFT asset for auction, such as OpenSea, Christie's, or Sotheby's, and owner will give the company an opportunity prior to the auction to offer to purchase the NFT asset at an amount agreeable to owner. So here's the problem that the company has, right? The company is going to exclusively license your thing, but it doesn't trust you. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. And I do actually understand the perspective. It can't trust you or me or anybody to keep the thing. If I was to sell the thing, it actually screws up their licensing deal. They could be in the middle of a show and I sell the thing, and that new owner says, well, I don't have a contract with you, right? I don't have a contract. I don't want that deal. I'm terminating it or whatever. So that's a problem that all of these agreements have. It is a legitimate concern from the company. It's like, well, what if they sell it or transfer it? You know, what happened? How can we protect ourselves legally? So the ability to notify the company is I do think that's important, and that makes total sense. However, the language is in this paragraph appears to be someone that doesn't understand how the NFT market works. And this is why I question, like, a little bit of the founding team. I'm like, did you guys read this? Or were you just convinced to do this? Or did you just not really think it was a big deal? Or did you just not care? Again, I like the company. I actually do like the company that's doing this. So I'd like to think that they either like read it briefly and said, yeah, it's great. We got the best lawyers, the best entertainment lawyers. So whatever they say goes, we'll just use it. Usually that's what happens. But read this. Like it says, if owner will notify the company if it receives an offer to purchase an NFT asset. If you are in the NFT market, your NFT asset probably gets offers to purchase every day, okay? All the fucking time, whether it's 10 DAI, right? Like whether it's a spam offer or whether it's a legitimate offer, you get offers all the time. And so it's a mistake. I know intrinsically, they mean if I get a legitimate offer that is something that I am personally going to consider, they need to know about it. But that's not what they wrote, right? I am translating their language into something that I know that makes sense, right? What they mean is not what they wrote. And so what they wrote has to be what they mean, meaning legally, I sign this, right? Or you sign this. The minute you don't report that they received an offer to purchase, you're technically breaking the terms of service. You're technically breaking the terms of the contract. So is that something that they would use against you? Honestly, probably not. But a sign that they don't necessarily understand how the NFT, the person who wrote this does not understand the intricacies of how the NFT market works, right? Because they should have written it differently. Serious offer, an offer that you are considering, right? That's different language than if it receives an offer to purchase an NFT asset. That's all of it. That's all encompassing. Usually in legal terms, all encompassing is good. Here it's bad because it instantly makes you break the contract, which could make you, that could hurt you down the road. That could actually, if they really wanted to be malicious, they could say, well, you never gave us, you've had 150 offers on your NFT and you never let us know once. And you're like, well, I wasn't going to take the offer. I mean, these guys were offering me like 1 ETH for an Azuki or something. And they're like, doesn't matter, you broke the agreement, right? So it could get, if they're vicious attorneys, you never know, you got to be careful. Within 24 hours. So this is the other part. Within 24 hours after the company's notice of the offer, the company may purchase the NFT asset from the owner for at least 1 cent more than the amount offered. So let's say that somebody comes in and it's a serious offer, okay? And maybe they hit you up on DM and they're like, hey, let's use a third-party service and I'm gonna pay you 200 ETH for your NFT. And you're like, hell yeah, let's do it. You can't do it. You have to you'd have to tell this person, oh, I've got this deal, it's a licensing deal. And then you have to email or contact the company and they have 24 hours to get back to you. And if you guys know the NFT space, 24 hours, like that deal's gone, man. Like there's a high likelihood that if somebody's offering you something that you're going to be, an amount that you would like to take, it's stopping you from making a sale because you have to be like, oh, I can't do this yet. And of course, you know how easy it is to like contact buyers right now, right? Like, no, it's impossible. Like it's just done through OpenSea usually, or LooksRare. Very rarely at the high end, people are contacting each other and doing connections and stuff like that. So that might be easier. But for the most part, if you don't take that deal within like 12 hours, that offer's gone, man. So that can kill a deal. And then they have the ability, they may purchase the NFT asset from the owner for at least 1 cent more. So they don't say, we get to bid higher. They're saying, like, we don't need to pay more than 1 cent more than the offer. So they basically are giving themselves the ability to snipe any potential purchaser that you might want to sell to, right? Like you're getting the right of first purchase for 1 penny. And I like how it's 1 cent, not like 0.0000 whatever it is ETH. Like it's straight up, I guess 1 cent because ETH goes up and down, I guess. But still, it's like they didn't even put like $1. Like really, you're gonna come in, snipe it, and add a penny and just force buy it. All right, that's a little aggressive. But again, it comes from a defensive place of the company where they're scared that you're gonna sell something. They don't trust you, or it could screw up their licensing deal. So I get the perspective, but it's not written well, and it's written in an aggressive way. So if the company doesn't exercise this right, then within 48 hours after the 24-hour period, owner may sell the NFT asset to the offerer. So I was wrong. I forgot. It's not just 24 hours. You have to wait 3 days. So you get that offer in, it's not 24 hours. You just got to sit on your ass for 3 days. And then hopefully that huge deal is still there, right? And then finally, you can put the asset up for auction at OpenSea or Christie's or Sotheby's. However, you can do whatever you want, owner. Of course, you can totally put it up for auction. I mean, it's your thing. You own it, right? You're the owner. Except if you're going to do that, you're contractually obligated to contact us in advance and give us the ability to buy it before it goes to auction. Again, sniping. I understand it's done as a defensive mechanism to protect the company, but the way they frame it is very aggressive. So it's pretty strong. Let's see what you guys are saying. Carrots, I was worried about the last part since it seems way too vague and open to hijacking for unknown periods of time. Yeah, 100%. Totally agree on that. This whole thing is very open. And again, it's flipping the paradigm of ownership and IP. to where it becomes like a disadvantage, not an advantage. Carrot says, nice. So company could make an offer of 1 ETH on a Bored Ape with a burner wallet and then enforce a purchase of that item to then for 1 ETH plus 1 cent. Yeah, 100%. Well, what they're saying is like, if you get an offer, two things. If I get an offer from 1 ETH and I don't accept it because I'm like, this is worth 100 ETH. I'm not going to accept 1 ETH. They legally now have a secret way to come after me if they decide they don't like me. Because if I don't report that, if I don't notify them, okay? If I don't notify them if I receive an offer, so technically, from a legal standpoint, you make an offer or they make an offer, whoever makes an offer for 1 ETH, okay? Where they could do is, if they really wanted to be dirty about it, and I don't think this is the case, but if they really wanted to be dirty about it, you could have, the company could put an offer on 1 ETH. I wouldn't report it because who the hell's going to report all 500,000 like bot, like bot offers that we get every day on our NFTs or whatever, right? And then down the road, if I raise a stink or something, or I'm like trying to change the terms of the agreement, they have a weapon in their toolkit that says, oh, we checked the logs. There was a 1 ETH offer and you actually didn't report that. You never gave us the opportunity to counter that, right? So again, words mean things and contracts are explicitly explicit. They're very specific. And it's just as important what they don't say as what they do, because they're supposed to be all encompassing and very clear and concise. And so again, while I believe that this is about, that big offer, because they just don't want to lose the big deal. They know that if your Bored Ape is worth 100 ETH, most likely you're not gonna sell it for 1 ETH. However, even if that occurs, the fact that they want the opportunity to buy it first and you must give it to them is a little messed up, right? It's a little messed up. It's all based on like, it has to be based on whether you actually want to sell it. Because someone could offer carrots, you could have an NFT worth 500 ETH and someone says, hey, I'm going to give you 550 ETH for this. And if you're not willing to entertain it, then there's no force that this company could come in and say 550 ETH plus 1 cent. However, if you were entertaining it, right, then these guys would have the ability to buy it instead, right? And so it's a little bit of cat and mouse. It's really strange. So many cool legal concerns on both sides here. Yeah, I mean, you have to be fair to the company, right? Like, there are genuine legal protections they have to have. They have to protect their business. They're going to be doing they're most likely trying to get really large deals. And a lot of these deals are for big projects, things that last across multiple products and multiple years, right? And so they need to be careful. What these businesses are doing, and it's smart, is that they recognize that there's 100,000 people out there with these top 25 or even more than 100,000, top 10, top 25 blue chip projects that have massive audience attention, but these holders, most of them don't know anything about brand building or how to launch a product at all. And so it's just from a company standpoint, it's a gold mine, right? Because they're like, we know how to build a brand. We can get all the licensing deals. What we can't do is make something. Why spend the time to make something popular when it's already popular, right? That is one perspective. Now, we do the opposite at Adult Fantasy because I didn't want this problem, right? The problem is, what if they sell it? How much do they control? You're always chasing it. There's like a dozen companies that are like the Disrupt Disney, and they're all going after licensing deals for owners of these top tier projects because it's easy. It's like fish in a barrel right now, right? That's not the game that I play, right? Like, it's also not my specialty. My specialty is building a brand from scratch and getting it into the public, right? So I'm on the opposite side of the fence, and that's why Adult Fantasy is Adult Fantasy. But while I understand the concern of the company, it's not the presentation of it is done in an aggressive manner. It doesn't treat the owner with respect, and it doesn't treat the owner on an equal playing field of the company. It's all in the language. When you read a good contract, it is very obvious that they actually give a shit about you. It should be, right? When I'm writing contracts, when I'm having my team write contracts, I'm always thinking about the other person, because I want the deal to go through, right? Like I have to worry about what I have to do to protect the company. And I also have to worry about, or I feel like I'm obligated to worry about what I can do to protect them as well, to make sure that the other side of the table gets the best deal, so that we can both be happy and have a great relationship in building whatever it is that we're going to build, right? This is really dominant. This is very much old school contractor, where you're not an employee. We don't owe you anything. You're work for hire. It's kind of like there's a little bit of mean spirit. It's very corporate. It's very mean spirited to me. Again, it could be my interpretation, but it certainly is my interpretation. But Hype says thank you. Oh, of course. Willy D says, so this was about 344. Would it be applicable to all 46 owners of 344, or just you and the individual 344 that you own? Brilliant question. And this is also another reason why, like, I would never sign this, is because it doesn't address it. The answer is I don't know, because they're not considering that, because they are not, this contract does not take into consideration communities that are building characters. It's not taking into consideration communities that are taking the Bored Ape, or taking Azuki, or taking any other thing that they've owned via a license, taking their doodle, and creating brands off of it. They don't care, right? They're just, there's no assumption that that's even happening, right? So that's a brilliant question, and the answer is like, yeah, who knows, right? Under this agreement, if I was to sign this, they'd be like, well, you figure it out with your community, right? Which would be the worst thing that could happen, because one, that would leave me in a situation where we would have to figure something out, right? Because at first you're like, we got this licensing deal, but they wouldn't have anything to do with it. They'd be like, it's your group, you signed it, you figure it out. So that means that our team would have to figure out, okay, it is possible, right? Like if I wanted to like play a mental game with it, I would say, okay, let's say we signed it. And so they have this exclusive license to 344. That means we get 50% from 50% net at a sorry, I can't even. We get 50% at a voice actor rate. And then whatever, maybe if it's a toy, it's 50%, actual 50% of net proceeds, divided up between whoever, is involved. So then what we would have to do on our side is say, okay, we're going to have an agreement, or we're going to put this in our terms of service, right? That says any funds that we get in from licensing deals, or maybe even this specific deal, would be split up among the group this way, or rewards would be given this way. But that's it would have to be something like that. But that's also the problem with it, because it's a little convoluted, right? There's certainly, for adult fantasy, there certainly will be agreements that have to deal with that, because we plan to license things out as a group, right? Hopefully it's more like a big discussion, right? But we will be having to discuss these kinds of things. And there are ways to go about it that are fair and fun. The problem with this is that this contract doesn't care about that, right? They're not thinking about people who have done any kind of project, because all of that would have to stop. I'll give you an example. Let's say we're 6 months down the road, and 344, as an example, has a comic book and is in an RPG and is on apparel, or we're doing the Monty, right? Like we've got products out there and people love it. Under this agreement, all of that stops. Like adult fantasy would not be able to create any property that goes against what they want to do. So streaming and books and all the stuff that they mentioned in that first paragraph, we would immediately cease operation on that character. We would not legally be able to do so. Okay. Again, we are allowed to do anything that is not in that first clause, but that first clause covered like pretty much anything any Web3 company would want to do, right? So it's not a good contract to try to parse. Like it's like, okay, you sign the contract and they have exclusive rights, so we're going to just get a piece of that 50%. Then our team would be forced into a mode of like, okay, we signed this thing, and let's say that it did get into a show and that this company is getting it on, let's just say Netflix. Okay, great. 344 has a Netflix show, and we're going to get the voice actor rate for a Netflix show. Cool. How do we divide that up, or how do we use that for the community? You know, maybe it's through community grants or whatever. That would be something that we would have to figure out, right? And so it puts pressure on the owner. The owner becomes the custodian. It's not about ownership. They become the owner, and you can kind of figure it out. Does that make sense? That's a fantastic question, Willy D. Absolutely great. And I think that question goes right to the heart of the problem with this stuff. Like 100%, you nailed it. Like that's really, you're starting to see like where like the Pandora's box starts to open with this stuff. That's brilliant. Carrot says, this has so many layers, difficult to discuss on YouTube comments. It's a chat over drinks topic. It is. It absolutely is. We can bring this up again. Hopefully hopefully I get more contracts, and hopefully some of them will be good, and hopefully some of them I can share. Joining it. Hey, Casper, joining in late. Hello guys. What's up, Casper? How you doing? Love seeing you, man. We're diving in deep. This is like some deep topic. Fortunately, Carrots, I had a shot of whiskey before this. Like, man, we're talking about legal contracts on the YouTube channel. Oh man, I'm not even LawTube, dude. All right, so we've got one more. The pièce de resistance. The piece that really was like, I was just really got me. So to recap, you're giving them exclusive rights to everything. They can sublicense, they can transfer, they can do whatever they want. They can use it for film and TV and streaming and books and play to earn and toys and anything, collectibles, merchandising. You can sponsorships, licensing deals. You can do whatever you want outside of that. Oh yeah, you have the full right to use the NFT. They're giving you the right, by the way. Because you've given them exclusive right, they are handing you back the right to do something with this. As long as it's none of this, which is of course everything. So good luck trying to figure out what you can do. Okay. On top of that, you get that 50% net that is based on a rate that is voice actor rate. I genuinely curious like why they picked that, whether that's because it's like, I don't know if that's the lowest paying job, but it's not the highest. So I'm really curious as how they picked that. So you're going to get paid 50%, but that 50% is at a rate according to voice actors. Content ownership. So they're going to own everything they make, which again, I kind of understand. They can do whatever the hell they want with it. They're going to jointly share the rights with you. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get more money if they resell and do all that kind of stuff. And there's problems with jointly owning the rights for at least patents, because companies own patents, people do not. Termination. You can terminate it whenever you want. They can terminate it whatever you want. But if they have a 10, 15, 20 year deal with somebody, that thing is going to keep going whether you like it or not. Like you're not going to be able to stop it. And they'll probably continue to, they do say they will continue to pay you, but if they enter into a brand relationship with someone you don't like, tough. Like they'll terminate it and they'll keep doing it. Representations, they're stating again that you haven't granted rights to anybody else, so that they are the exclusive owner of these rights. And finally, what we've covered so far, and we have one more to go, is that if you want to sell this thing, you got to tell them every single offer that you receive. And if it's a serious offer and you're considering it, they basically have 3 days to bump in and say, excuse me, can I have this dance? And pay 1 penny more and just snipe it from whoever was going to buy it. They get first right of refusal, right? And if you're going to auction it, that's great. You also have to give them first right of purchase, right? They have the option to purchase it. They can refuse to purchase it, but it's their choice, or they can buy it for an amount agreeable to owner, which is also interesting because I don't know how you figure that out for an auction. Usually I translate that to a lowball offer, but I don't know. That's probably not fair. I don't know how you figure out an agreeable to owner amount. That's a negotiation. All right, so we're gonna pop into the last part. Kara says, yeah, but this is good stuff. I love it. Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. Like, nobody else is going to show you this because, like, how many people are running projects that have, that are actually getting deals. By the way, Adult Fantasy, we're getting deals. Like, this is real. Like, I'm going out there for you guys. All right, so let's last piece. Oh man, damages, limitation of liability. This one is just egregious, man. If owner transfers some or all of the NFT assets in violation of this agreement, the company is likely to have actual damages that are extremely difficult to fix. And owner and the company agree that in the event of a breach of this section, owner shall pay to the company the proceeds received from the sale of the NFT assets. In no event shall either party be liable for any lost profits or other consequential damages or for punitive damages in connection with this agreement, even if informed in advance of the possibilities of such damages. So I love the psychological trick of putting in big, bold letters the thing that actually protects you. Okay? This is a lawyer trick. They're putting in bold letters, hey, in no event shall either party be liable for any lost profits or other consequential damages. So, hey, we're the company, we're awesome, we're so good that if you do something that costs us millions of dollars, you're not going to be liable for that. Meaning you're not going to have to pay us millions of dollars in damages. Likewise, the same. Like, we're not going to have to pay you anything either. But really, and this is true, if you do something to hurt the company, you're not going to have to pay us tens of millions of dollars. You're not going to go broke. You're not going to go homeless. However, the secret one is the sentence right before it. Owner shall pay to the company the proceeds received from the sale of the NFT assets. So, okay. So let's say you don't tell them that you received an offer, okay? And let's just play super good cop and say that the company is never going to hold. They're really good and they have a good heart. And they're just like, we're not talking about bots and we're not talking about random offers on OpenSea. We're talking about serious offers for large sums of money. We want the right to buy it. And again, I do understand that perspective because they need to protect their investment, right? They're probably spending millions of dollars on a show. They can't just have like someone break their terms and accidentally, or purposely sell something away and completely destroy the license in the middle of production of a show. That's disastrous. It's huge danger. It's a massive risk that the company takes, and that's real. Okay. So I respect that. Again, I think the writing of this is horrendous. But I understand their desire to say, hey, if you're going to sell it, we'd at least like the right to buy it. And then if we decide not to buy it, you can go ahead and sell it. Pro tip, if they're not going to buy it, that probably means it's not going to be in the show, or they're going to write the character out, or it's not a main character. Okay. If they're willing to not buy it and let you just sell it, and they're going to kind of lose that license and lose that flow, then they weren't really going to use your character. Okay. That's kind of where that goes. However, if you actually sell your ape or your Azuki or your Doodle or your Clone X, if you transfer some or all the NFTs in violation of this agreement, meaning you did not give them 3 days to buy it from you, you're going to pay them. You are agreeing by law to pay them the proceeds received from the sale. So, let's say that you have a CryptoPunk. I'm just picking one now. And your CryptoPunk is worth 300 ETH. And you get an offer of 300 ETH. And you're like, hell yeah. Well, you know what? You're like, screw it. No, make it 400. And the person's like, I just need that. I need that. 400 ETH. Here you go. 400 ETH. And you're like, this is an offer I cannot refuse. It's life-changing money. Let's make a deal. Boom, hit the buzzer. You just landed 400 ETH, which is like what? Like 1.2 million or 1.3 million, whatever ETH is today. Great. Happy go lucky, dude. Congratulations. You are a multimillionaire. Except you didn't tell the licensor who owns the exclusive rights to this NFT that you sold it. So by law, by signing this agreement, you are giving them 100% of those proceeds. You are taking that $1.4 million and you are just handing it to them. So now you do not have $1.4 million and you also don't have your CryptoPunk. You're asked out and you're busted. This is, to me, is egregious. Again, trying to think about it from both sides. I understand that if you're in the middle of production of a show and the shows cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to make per episode, and let's just say it's worst case scenario, it's the lead character, and the person that owns the lead character transfers the NFT, sells it to somebody, which destroys your ability as a company to continue, because you must have legal agreements. You need to have permission to do this. So the first thing that happens on the company side is that they have a blow up session where everybody's flipping tables and cussing everybody else out. And then the legal team has to chase down the new owner and basically beg them to sign a contract so they can continue production. Or more likely say, hey, by the way, basically, I mean, if I was a legal team, and well, I wouldn't do this, but I think a Hollywood executive legal team or an entertainment lawyer, from what I've seen, would probably go after that person, that new owner, and say, hey, by the way, we have an agreement. In place. Congratulations, you bought this thing, that you bought the CryptoPunk. That CryptoPunk is actually a lead in a show. You're going to be receiving 50% proceeds, net profits. We just need you to sign some paperwork. Where can I send it? Right? And then they write a really good legal document that the person hopefully doesn't totally balk at, but they really need to get an agreement signed, right? So it's going to be a threading the needle kind of a contract, and kind of like, yeah, you're just getting free money. We just need to put your name on the dotted line, and of course that's an exclusive agreement similar to this, probably the same contract. So, but for the person that sold it, they instantly get punished, massively punished. This is probably the biggest thing in here, that if you are not reading a contract, it's one line, and they've padded it visually so that your eye focuses on the part where it says you're not liable for anything. Well, you're not going to be liable for anything because you're going to give them the money from the proceeds of whatever you sold, right? Whether it's one thing from the show or the agreement, or 10 things, you're going to lose everything. Okay, so it's really interesting. Now, from the company standpoint, trying to play both sides of the fence here, if your legal team has to go chase down a new person and basically beg them to sign a contract, that's going to cost money. Legal teams don't work for free, and that's going to come out of your pocket. So I can see why they would want to pay something. There would have to be, but this is it's a little slimy, I think. Instead, they could have said punitive damages may occur. Just be real about it. If we can't get the licensing back, punitive damages will occur, or something, so that the person signing this contract knows and understands the perspective. This is my problem with these kind of contracts. And this is kind of what I was talking about, where like there are good ones out there that take into consideration the person signing the contract. Like it's okay. Hey, project owners, people who are making contracts, like it is okay to explain openly the position of the company and why they're going to need to do something. If someone breaks the contract and someone breaks the terms of the deal, of the agreement, you should explain to them how it's going to negatively affect the company and why they're going to have to go after you for at least some kind of capped amount of money, right? You could just as easily say, you could legally, I mean, not maybe, I'm paraphrasing, but you could just as easily say, hey, if you sell your Bored Ape, it's going to really damage, or it could really hurt production, and may cause setbacks, blah 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 blah. You may be held liable for damages involved in this, right? To be determined, whatever. Like there are so many ways to frame it so that a person who may not be a lawyer or may not be like me, someone who like actually like dives into this shit, like explain to them why it's important, and then like don't punish them up front. You know what I mean? Like this is an instant punishment. And it's even worse than that because this is crypto. So it's not like they can just take it from you. They can't dock your wages, right? They have to legally pursue you, meaning you're going to get sued. They're going to come after you hard, right? You're going to get letter after letter after letter, and they're going to come after you for whatever you sold that piece for. And I don't think this is a good precedent. I don't think it's a good way to present a company. And again, even with this contract, I got to say I think the company is strong, and I think they're going to do good work. And I'm probably going to, do your own research. And again, it's going to be hard because I'm not going to tell you what the company is, but I'm probably going to support them in their endeavor. Like, as they do more mints and all that kind of stuff, like I'm going to continue to support. But this is awful, man. Like, that's what I said at the beginning. Like, if you're somebody that is this contract is only good, in my humble opinion, if you read the contract and you're someone who has bought one of these blue chips and you're just holding it and you're diamond hands forever, you're never going to sell it, and you're never going to like make any kind of product out of it, period. You're just like a flat holder. Then maybe this makes sense, right? Because then you're not in any danger. I'm never gonna sell it, so I don't have to worry about giving the proceeds to the company, right? I'm never gonna make a product, so I don't have to worry about breaking any terms of the agreement. Other than that, man, if you're trying to do anything in life with this thing, forget it. It's awful. Let's see what you guys are saying. Let's see. Let's see. Dusty says, would that be the case even if they didn't use your NFT as a character? If one were to sell, they could still force you to hand over the funds. Yeah, absolutely. That's another good point, right? There's no mention of this. There's nothing that in this section or in this agreement that says, if we use your character in a show, ... If your character is being actively used in production and you sell, then you owe us, right? That would give a condition, which would make sense, right? So Dusty, you nailed another angle that I hadn't even thought of, right? Like this is period. Like, hey, hypothetical. We sign the agreement and we give them Basie 344. He looks cool. He's got the Thanos arm with the Hellboy thing, and he's all that. And they end up making him work at Dairy Queen, and he's not the same character at all because they can control all of that. Or they decide to put him on the shelf. They're like, okay, cool. We got another licensed ape. We're not doing anything with him. So our character that we've been working really hard to build and develop and maybe working on comics and all this other stuff, that stops immediately. They get the character. That character sits on the shelf, never gets used for the term limit contained in the contract. And I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was like a year, whatever it is. For the duration of the term, we can't make anything. It never gets out there because they decide not to use the ape. They're like, yeah, I don't like the cut of his jib. There's other apes. Let's use other apes. And then if we decide to sell the ape, we have to give them the money, right? There's no stipulation that says if we're in the middle of production or if we're in the middle of a big licensing deal and you sell, that can cause us real damage. And if that happens, then you're going to have to pay us, proceeds received. That honestly, I could maybe understand because you're like, oh yeah, well, if you're in the middle of production, that would cost you a fortune. Like it cost them way more, potentially way more in damages than any ape or Azuki, period. Like it could cost them a lot of money. But that's not what they say. Words mean things. It's not what they say. So Dusty, good catch. That's really good. JRS says it's criminal as fuck. Yeah, it's just not thoughtful. It's not necessarily criminal. It's just like, it's old school and it's aggressive. It's the kind of thing you do to talent that you don't care about. And this is the way I came up. Like coming up in animation and entertainment, this is standard shit, dude. Like it's new and different because it's dealing with NFTs. But this attitude of like, you're going to give us everything. And if you fuck up, we're going to take everything anyway. Like, again, the perspective of the contract, in my humble opinion, through my eyes, is that even though the contract calls you the owner, everything that's in this contract says that they are the owner and you're just the custodian. Like, you can't do anything without their permission. You can't sell anything without their permission. If you sell it without their permission, they get the money. So who owns it? They do. You're just holding it in a different wallet. They're giving you permission to hold it in your wallet. I mean, that's really what it is. And again, the optimist in me and the person that believes in people still has some faith left in humanity. I would like to believe that the founders of this company don't believe that. And that this is just a straight up old school lawyer, entertainment lawyer, who's just like used to doing this and beating the shit out of people to get the most for their client. But this is Web3, and this is a bad look for the company, right? It's really not helpful, in my opinion. Dusty says, interesting question. So let's say a person sells their lead character NFT and has to forfeit the money. New owner doesn't agree to any IP rights. What happens to content already released? That's another great question. I believe, and I could be wrong because again, I'm not a lawyer, but so let's mentally play it out. So the company makes a TV show, and let's say, Dusty, you have a really rare NFT. You've signed this agreement with these guys. You sell the character. It happens to be the lead character in their Netflix show. You forfeit the money because you broke the terms, and they're like, yo, you never gave us the opportunity to buy it for 1 cent over whatever. You know what I mean? So now you've actually lost big time. Not only have you lost your blue chip piece, but you didn't even get money. You had to forfeit the cash and pay the company. The new owner doesn't agree to any IP rights. That's a good question. Probably. So what would probably happen is that they would be covered. And the reason that they're covered is because of this clause right here, termination, right? They wouldn't be able to undertake any new use or grant any new sub-license, but all other applicable terms of this agreement shall survive the end date. So that's them protecting themselves, again, saying, hey, we had a 10-year deal with Netflix. We had season 2 of our Netflix show is already made. So even though the new owner is like, I didn't agree to that, they're like, well, we actually have an agreement that says, regardless of whether the old owner is involved or not, we have the legal right to continue to use this through the term, right? Again, and this could also be used from the company standpoint as leverage to come back to the new owner who doesn't agree to this, and they could say, we have the legal right to go through season 2 of our next Netflix show. Your character is the lead. If you'd like to sign a contract, we'll give you 50% at a rate that is defined in the contract. Otherwise, we keep it. Otherwise, you won't get anything, and we'll just keep the money. So they could frame it as like, hey, do you want free money? Because this is happening anyway, right? So that's probably how that would play out. Like that again, you see how crazy like legal contracts are. Like this one sentence could save them in that situation that you just came up with, right? It's one sentence. All other applicable terms of this agreement shall survive the end date. Cool. So the end date's over because someone screwed up. That's taken care of in another part of the contract. The deal with Adidas or Nike or Netflix or Hulu or whatever still goes on because it survives the end date. It's pretty interesting. Dusty, it seems like this could all get quite messy. Yeah, it's really fascinating. It's such a fascinating model to pursue, right? Like the idea that there's all these people out there sitting on a gold mine of NFTs, like PFP NFTs that are like top tier, and everyone knows them, and they're getting mad press, and famous people are buying them, I understand the salivating over that. Like, man, if we could just like get some of these people on, like we could partner with these people and we could like really help make them money, and we could like make content because there's an audience for it, like a baked in audience. Like that's what all entertainment is. A lot of entertainment is based on now. But one, you have competition because there's dozens of these companies now going after holders for licensing deals. I was case in point, as I mentioned earlier, like I was shocked in the first sentence when I saw that we were giving exclusive rights. I actually hadn't seen that before in the Web3 space. I've seen a few contracts from these companies that are like looking to license. Usually they're non-exclusive, meaning you own it, you own the rights to it. We want to use it, and we give you 50%. 50% is kind of common, which is cool. But non-exclusive means that, hey, you're giving us the right to do stuff, but you can as well. Like, we're not going to stop you from doing stuff. It's your thing. So if you want to continue to make stuff, go for it, right? Like, that's kind of like why we were like, yeah, non-exclusive. Like, you guys, we haven't even had an agreement yet. We're just like, do whatever you want. Like, go for it. Like, make shirts, sell it, go for it, make money off it. Like, yes, it helps. In our opinion, it actually helps the network, right? Like, I think it's pretty basic. Like, if 25 of us in the group decide to make t-shirts and apparel and coffee mugs and rugs and whatever, backpacks or whatever the level of talent that we have, it just helps the entire group. Like, it makes common sense. But exclusive cuts all of that out. Like, they are killing any individual's audience and really just like owning it. I mean, this is old school, man. It's like really old school. Animation deals are kind of set up like this. Remember how I used to tell you guys, like some of you guys might remember this, like I went down the path of animation, and we'll wrap it up. I know we went long tonight, but we back in the day, I had a project, and I'm not going to mention the name because I may bring it back. You never know. But it got all the way to talking about green lighting it, meaning at that point I hadn't had something greenlit. I ended up having that later with Marvel, but was in production meetings getting ready for a pilot. They loved it. It was an original property that I created. I like fought to get in there. And when they were talking about, we were finally talking about negotiating the terms, and the terms were similar but different to this, where basically you're just giving them the whole thing, and you're basically you just have a job. Hey kid, you're gonna have a job working on your own show. and your name is going to be in lights. And I was like, yeah, but the contract says I don't get paid anything. like you're getting 99.995% of all revenue. Like, but I'm the one doing all the work. And they're like, yeah, but we have to own it because we have to, the network and da 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 da. And I was out. I was like, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'd rather not have the thing out there. Then why do I want to be a wage slave to my own show? That didn't sound like fun. And then I got a bunch of guys who took the deals and got their names in lights, and they have bigger name recognition than I do, but they were miserable, so unhappy, just not satisfied at all. It's just whatever. It's very hard to turn down. It's very hard to do. This is very hard to turn down. As crazy as this contract is, like, this company is not going to have a problem signing up NFTs. Like, they're not going to have a problem doing it. And I just hope that the people that sign up are actually like aware of what they're signing, because it could be a really good contract if you're the right person. But adult fantasy sure as hell ain't the right project for this crap, in my humble opinion, again. So, yeah, guys, that's what makes us a little different than every other YouTube channel. Like, who else is gonna go tear through a contract? Anyway, I hope this provided some value for you guys. You guys have any other questions? Hit me up. Hit me up in chat right now, or you can hit me up in the comments below. I always want to hear your thoughts. Yeah, what do you think could be better? Like, what do you think could have made this better, right? Or do you like it? Do you guys actually, some of you guys actually say, no, man, it sounds pretty cool to me. Todd, you're like smoking crack. It sounds like a great contract. Let me know in the comments below. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, thumbs up, give me all that love. We got to hit the algorithm. We got like 27 subscribers, guys. It's freaking awesome. Let's get to 28. We're moving on up. Anyway, with that, I love you guys. I think Dusty is pushing for games in Discord after this. I'll try to show up, although I'm usually whipped by the end of this. But I love you guys. I will see you in Discord. And with that, see you tomorrow, guys. Take it easy.